Oh man, Juan, I don't know about you, but I'm still healing up that sunburn I had from Miami this last weekend.
You
It
know,
was
I
a hot
was,
one out there, boys and girls.
I was drinking with so many celebrities and hanging out with so many sports representatives and brands and sponsors that, honestly, I just forgot to even watch the race while I was at the weekend there.
Yeah, I was too busy partying and chugging Red Bulls and talking about my Rolex and saying I could throw a ball farther than Tom Brady. Why is he even here? That I forgot they actually had the race. But to be fair, I watched the replay and it was still pretty boring. Uh, if we're gonna talk a lot, let's break down the Miami 2022 race series that was in the United States of America, the first U.S. race of 2022.
So for this episode, we're going to be focusing on the events that surrounded the GP and with a bit of the race talk, of course, but we're mainly going to focus on why the Miami GP. Was it a failure or was it successful this year?
Yeah, and if y'all didn't watch the race, Red Bull got one, Ferrari 2-3. Red Bull is crazy fast in the straights. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
insane, like 10 miles an hour faster than most people, which helped make Verstappen's day pretty easy. But for the most part, a lot of it, and even on Formula One, videos and stuff like that, a lot of people were talking about the fan service and the celebrities and the sponsors, and was it a good experience? Was it bad? And from a lot of the average fans who actually went to watch Formula One because they liked the race, they said they had a great time. They said it wasn't even crazy packed, it wasn't overwhelming. All the vendors were pretty much stocked up the whole time. But then you get into the celebrities and sponsors, and a lot of people said who got, because they hand out a bunch of free tickets for sponsors and celebrities. A lot of them said they didn't have fun. Said it was packed. They said it was hot. Yeah, no shit. But they just said they didn't have a good time, and they don't think they'll be returning for next year.
Well, that's okay. They'll make room for people like us who want to experience something like that because I think the weekend overall it looked pretty cool because I did notice it wasn't as packed as like the U.S. one was because I know when we were there last year that was just crazy the amount of people that would just linger around the food stands, the beer stands, and in the stands, of course, watching all the things that are going on. And I felt like what Miami was missing a little bit, and I guess maybe this is truly representative of it. It felt like there was people there, but it felt like it didn't really have a soul. It felt like there was
Yep.
just kind of casual people there, and it seemed like it was maybe a lot of new race fans, which I would consider myself a new race fan. And so I think maybe that's just part of like establishing a track in a new city. You've got to build up that culture and that personality.
I mean, and that just kind of goes for Miami as a whole. Nothing about that weekend felt unique. The
Yeah.
track didn't feel unique. It felt like it had good points and a lot of bad points, and the flow was just terrible. I hope they change that for the next year. The people who came in, a lot of it was just like, come take pictures. Look at the fake water. Look, we have boats. That's a restaurant, but it's not a restaurant, but it's on the water. You can go sit in it for if you have $800 to blow. Everything about it just it screamed Miami. Just that
Yeah, a little fake.
fake, yeah,
Yeah.
just a fake, not a whole lot of imagination, just bougie, throw money at it and see what happens.
Yeah, that and I think that's why it summarized the weekend really well. Like, imagine the type of people an event like Miami would attract. Right? They're already there, or they know that if they're going there, they're gonna go party, blow money, go to clubs, go to bars, and so they had stuff to cater for that kind of person.
Yeah, pretty much. Other than that, it was kind of cool looking at Lewis Hamilton talk with like Tom Brady and David Beckham, two like huge stars that are. I mean, if I was there, that'd be really cool. But
Yeah,
other than that, it's like, the race was okay. The track, in my opinion, wasn't very cool.
yeah,
The surrounding area looked fun, but at the same time, the cost of entry just pushed so many regular fans out.
yeah.
I simply couldn't give up spending 1700 $1,700 to sit in a decent seat on top of staying in Miami on an inflated weekend. I mean, that's a lot of. You know how many Pokemon cards I could buy with that?
We had tried to buy them last year, and I got into the queue. I was able to select tickets, and the cheapest ones I could find that were available still were like 1,300 for grandstand, and they weren't main grandstand tickets either. I don't think. So it was pretty nuts. The cost of entry was just way too bad, and the fact that they're looking at adding more tells me that I think they're going to do the opposite. They're not going to make them cheaper, but they're going to make them even more expensive and add even more seats because the room is there.
Yeah,
And
and I mean it's yeah.
talking about some of the financials about it. Now, specific figures haven't been released, but the organizers for the Miami F1 Grand Prix essentially announced that they lost money on the event. And so there was a huge effort to kind of try and make this a profitable event, but it ended up being that they offered way too many extras, too many bells and whistles that just ultimately made this a non-profitable experience. And so I wonder how that's going to affect the experience going forward. I think the experience that people got this year is not going to be the same one that gets planned next year. I think they're going
No,
to try to maximize some profit next year for sure.
there needs to be train changes, not just for the race, not just for the track, but for the whole weekend itself. From people who could afford to go or were more local and decided to spend the money to go, they said they had a great time as F1 fans, especially somebody who's, like Juan was saying, when we went to the USGP in Texas, in Austin, it was hot, it was packed, 130,000 people on race day.
Yeah, it was
Way too
absolutely
many
nuts.
people. But I mean, it was still fun and it was still a solid race. And it's always great to go in person if you've never experienced it and hear those cars and see the drivers
Yeah.
and just, I mean, see how ridiculously fast those cars are.
Yeah, so Miami ended up seating 85,000 people this year. They said that they should be able to grow up to at least 100K. So they're going to be looking to add about 15K seats, which is that's just pretty nuts, and that'll, people were saying that the event didn't feel too full. Sprinkle 15K people in there, that's going to be a little more dense.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I could only imagine the people who went and didn't even watch the race. You know, because I was reading about F1 sponsors who went and had a terrible time in the F1 fan service area.
Mm.
Like they were running out of water, they ran out of toilet paper, the
Oh my
bathrooms
god.
were bad, and I'm sure they were just like watching the race on a TV. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like why even go?
Well, we'll look into other tracks maybe as they progress and we hear a little bit more about them. But for me, I think Miami was it was good, but it was also kind of just very Miami, a little shallow, a little fake, and very expensive.
Yeah, so pretty much on par.